A good shamanic practice is based in reality. In other words, if you first off get your facts right, because if you have a shamanic theory, metaphysical theory, spiritual theory about some things, if it's true, there's an example of it already existing on the physical plane. Okay. As an example, when I was talking about how you can program an inanimate object with animate life signature, in other words, you can take something and actually influence it to where it acts completely different. We're going to look at magnetism as just a good example. It's conditional because it only works with metals that have nickel, cadmium, and iron, But it's one example that's truth. Let's go ahead and go into like the spiritual warrior, the warrior shaman, and all the other stuff like that. It's like, let's just take the root word, war. All right, war is about fighting. It's combative. Death. It's a winner and a loser. Maybe a negotiator, a peace, whatever. But the fact of it is, the warriors have always been like the aggressive people, the very defensive people. But there's some kind of combat. There's warfare. There's high risk involved. And to be successful at it, you have to be conditioned for it, trained for it, have the mental disposition for it. Experience helps, because especially like in the older days, if you're an older warrior, you're probably pretty good because you lived through all that other stuff. As times got softer, and as did the people, I guess to make themselves feel stronger, more confident, or whatever, people will bring this, oh, I'm a spiritual warrior. Well, that really doesn't mean much. It's kind of like the martial artist that does all the pretty katas and can do all the cute kicks and stand there with their feet up in the air. But when they get into the ring, they're not so good. And when they get out into their street situation or get mugged, they just fail. But the real disaster on that part is that they went through all this time and training and thought that they were great because they had that black belt, they had that, title and recognition and certificates up on their I love me wall in their room. But when the reality came down, nope, they were no one except a victim. We look at the generals of the old days. Those were the ones that were in the greatest shape, the highest skill, the bravest, because they were the leading by example. Generals today, a lot of times when they just blow up, they couldn't do anything. Forget force marching, forget any kind of a workout, forget hand-to-hand combat. It just wouldn't happen. But times got soft, people got lazy, and they found themselves in a comfortable position. Same thing in the New Age crowd. People are talking about their spiritual warrior. They're the warrior shaman and all this, and it's just, and then they can talk about the things that they do, and these people haven't even served any kind of apprenticeship. And when you look at it, the person, it's like you're this warrior shaman, but you're probably 40, 50 pounds overweight. You couldn't do any kind of arduous physical labor for any length of time without food or water, especially under pressure. But yet you're this warrior person. Okay. Now, anybody else that fits that same physical description is going to look at this person and go, oh, I can be that too. Look at me. We look the same. And that's not fat shaming people. That's just a reality check. And the reason I say that is because in really dire situations, everything eventually resonates on the physical body. And if you're into a real banishment, a real exorcism, you better not just have a strong body, but you need to have a steel trap mind, because that's where the real destruction happens in something like that. It's not like Hollywood where things flying around. I mean, I've seen some of that, but not nearly like a Hollywood version of an exorcism. The craziness happens in your mind, and that affects your body. And if the two of them aren't strong, if the two of them aren't in a real good alignment, yes, that's destructive. That's death. Same thing with energy healing. If you're working on someone, like I did a sweat lodge with a woman with full-blown AIDS and All my medical friends, like, you're going to kill her. You're going to catch AIDS yourself. You know, it was just bad, 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 bad. The stupidest thing you ever done, Hawk. And that's saying a lot. But it worked out great. It was a lot of stress on me at that time, 35 years ago. I was like in top physical condition. You know, I couldn't have done it now. I'm in good condition now, but again, I was a lot younger then. But without that physical conditioning, without my warrior background of actual combat, of actual military training, years and years of martial arts, I wouldn't have been able to hold that situation. And yeah, she would have been at high risk. I would have been at high risk. It would have been a bad story in the news, kind of a thing. People in the spiritual, especially what I call the New Age arena, there has to be the critical thought. There has to be the complete thought. You look at the title of that person. You know, of course, people look at me. I fit that description: the long hair, the beard, all that, the shaman look. But I know shamans that are, you know, wearing suits all the time. I know female shamans that are in the business field. So there's no one way of how the shaman looks, unless you're looking at something in the New Age genres. But there are things. If somebody says that they're an MMA fighter, you're going to look at that person's body and everything and just say, nah. If somebody says that they're active special forces, you're going to look at that person and go, yes or no. There's going to be signs of that. Whereas there's going to be a physical ability appearance. It's going to be very recognizable. Same thing in shamanism. Same thing if they're the warrior, you know. Oh, but I'm a peaceful warrior. I don't fight. Well, then just shut up. All right, you just forget about that title altogether. Well, what about Sun Tzu when he says the best way to win a war is just, you know, win the war without fighting? That's basically an economic decision. All right, it's easier to run lots of military campaigns by threat or deterrent, you know, and you can save your people for some time when you actually need them. If you're always ready to engage into the conflicts, you're spreading yourself real thin, like we're doing right now with all these military fronts all over the world as we're having all these people cross across our border. Yeah, that's just stupid. So when people say, well, you know, if you're a good warrior, you'll win the fight without fighting, an economic decision, okay? Nothing spiritual about that. It's an economic decision. So, and I'm bringing this up because one of my favorite places to get material for videos is a place on Facebook called Shaman Portal. And when you start reading the comments, it's like, oh my God, I need to do a video on this. This is going to take people down the wrong rabbit hole into the sewer. And this is the one that came up today. If you really want to get on a really good spiritual journey, treat your body as a temple. You do the maintenance on your temple. Don't pollute your temple. That's the other things about these spiritual warrior types. You know, they're usually waking up to no breakfast, smoke in the lungs, you know, Pepsis or whatever. I've seen too many of this. There's nothing warrior-like about that. Walk the talk. Live the life. And if you don't want to do that, step off the field. Catch you guys later.